Discover the incredible truth, 7 hidden challenges that could end your marriage in medieval times. Doug wiped the sweat and grease from his brow, the sun setting low behind the rows of suburban houses. Each day blurred into the next, a relentless grind filled with the clanking of tools and the slap of sneakers on the garage floor. At 36, Doug was proud of his work as a mechanic, yet a smoldering discontent simmered just beneath his skin, a desire for a life larger than the confines of his small-town existence that he hurried home, ready to embrace his wife, Jessica, and their 2 children who always seemed to spark joy. But as he entered the house, the familiar warmth faded. Through the kitchen door, he heard Jessica's voice, softer than usual, laden with worry. The words were struggling, cut through the air like a knife, igniting something deep within him. Panic clawed at his chest. Was he failing as a provider? Was his worth measured only by dollar signs? Their evenings, once filled with laughter, morphed into silent standoffs, a battle of unspoken fears and mounting insecurities. Jessica, a dedicated nurse, bore her own burdens as she climbed higher in her career, while Doug felt himself becoming a memory in her ascent. The more she succeeded, the more Doug felt swallowed by the shadows, his dreams of opening an auto shop slipping further away that he gazed at the family dinner table, where laughter used to echo. Now, it felt like a battlefield. He could barely remember the last time they shared a meal without tension. Their conversations turned to awkward exchanges, carefully avoiding the weighty topic of money. Each word hung frozen in the air: power struggles, loyal sacrifices, dreams deferred. Then came the moment of hope that flickered like a weak candle flame. Doug found out about a chance to open his own shop. Excitement bubbled up, but it was soon doused by the relentless wave of reality. A sudden financial setback came crashing down like a storm. Questions filled the gaps between their silence. Could they afford to care for their dreams when just getting by was so painfully difficult? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The chilly, rainy night arrived, wrapping around their home like a shroud. Doug's heart raced as he finally let his fears spill out. I feel like I'm failing you, he confessed, his voice breaking. As a husband. As a father. Jessica's tears fell freely now, honesty spilling over. And I feel so lonely. I have love all around me, but it feels like chains sometimes, she admitted, her vulnerability cracking the thick walls they had both put up. The barriers crumbled, revealing the chasm that had formed in their marriage. In the dim light of their kitchen, they sat, hearts laid bare and trembling with uncertainty. They had survived storms before, but this was the heart of their struggle, and they now faced the reality of their choices, questioning the very essence of their love. Could they redefine success together, or would this be the moment that changed everything? The rain drummed steadily on the windows, a relentless reminder of the storm outside as much as the turmoil inside. Doug looked at Jessica, her face a mix of sorrow and resolve, and he felt the weight of their unsaid words hanging between them. The silence stretched, and he could almost hear the clock ticking, each tick echoing the urgency of their conversation. Maybe we need to figure this out together, he ventured, his voice quieter now, almost tentative. I mean, what if we laid everything on the table? Our fears, our goals, everything. Jessica nodded, wiping the tears from her cheeks. I want that, Doug. But it feels like we've been in survival mode for so long. I just don't know how to break free. Her hands rested on the table, fingers intertwined, an anchor in the chaos. Doug took a deep breath, feeling the hot tears stinging his own eyes. What if we stopped thinking desperately about money? Instead, let us talk about what fulfilling our dreams would look like. What would it feel like? An ember of hope flickered between them. Jessica's lips curled into a small smile, reminiscent of the woman he fell in love with. What if we started with your shop? The idea has always meant so much to you. A rush of warmth surged through him at her acknowledgement of his dream. I want to create something that runs deeper than business. It's about building a legacy for our kids. I want them to know that dreams can become reality, even if it's hard. They both sat in the glow of a single kitchen light, absorbing each other's words. Doug had always imagined that success was measured in tangible gains, a bigger paycheck, six-figure jobs. But now, tonight, sitting in the soft glow of their home, it felt different. Maybe his legacy wouldn't be in dollars but in lessons learned, love shared, and resilience tested. What if we budgeted together? Really looked at our finances? Jessica suggested, the spark in her eyes igniting once more. We can trim some luxuries, maybe save enough for you to get that space. The idea sounded so simple yet profound. Doug grasped her hand, squeezing it tightly. I'm in, Jess. Whatever it takes, let us figure this out, together. I know it's not just about me anymore. Her gratitude flickered like candlelight, illuminating the room between them. They didn't have all the answers, but he felt a shift, a solid turning point. This was a new commitment. They wouldn't just survive, they would fight to thrive. The conversation shifted gears, full of plans and brainstorming. As they spoke, the rain let up, a light patter now, like a soft applause. Doug's anxiety began to lift, replaced with excitement. They could carve out possibilities stemming from their previous dreams, intertwining them with the realities they faced, but soon the conversations moved to their children, and Doug's heart tightened. How would they manage those responsibilities? Their laughter rolled like waves over their fears, yet the shadows still lingered. As the clock inched closer toward midnight, Doug felt a rush of anxiety again. What about the kids? How do we explain our journey to them? What if they don't understand? The weight of his question hung in the air, and he could almost feel the doors of uncertainty crack open once more. Jessica's brow furrowed, contemplating his words as the clock ticked ominously. Maybe it's time we showed them the truth about what it's like to chase a dream, she murmured, a note of determination in her voice. The conversation slowed, vulnerability creeping back in. They had made strides, but the shadows of doubt still loomed. Could they really turn their aspirations into tangible realities? And outside, the rain began again, heavier than before, as uncertainty blended with hope. How would they truly overcome these challenges in a world that didn't always encourage diving into one's dreams? As Doug looked into Jessica's eyes, he realized that the real challenge lay ahead, one they would have to navigate together, one decision at a time. The clock ticked louder now, a reminder that every second carried their dreams closer to reality. Doug watched Jessica as she pondered their future, her brow furrowed and her fingers tapping a steady rhythm on the table. He felt a sense of urgency mixed with the warmth of her determination. They were onto something important. He could nearly see the outlines of their dreams gathering like clouds, ready to unleash a storm of possibilities. Let us make a game plan, Doug suggested, trying to void the unease spreading through his chest. How about we start by mapping out our budget? We can list our priorities, maybe even sit down with the kids and get their input. It might help them understand better. Kids and finances. Jessica raised an eyebrow, skepticism woven into her voice. They're too young for that. They just want a fun home and a happy family. True, but they also need to see how dreams are built. What if we involve them a little? We could show them how we're trying to save for my shop and create something special. It might inspire them to dream bigger too, he said, feeling the full weight of his words. The flicker in Jessica's eyes told Doug she was considering it. You're right. They should see the start of our dream, the work that goes into it. It could be a family project. Doug took a breath, trying to keep the enthusiasm at bay. We could have them help with budgets. Math can be kind of fun when it's not boring schoolwork, right? Jessica chuckled lightly, the sound a balm on Doug's fraught spirit. Well, when you put it that way, what could be more fun than budgeting, right? He grinned, feeling the warmth between them grow, but the laughter soon faded, replaced by the serious undertones of adult life. You know, Jess, I've thought about what we'll have to give up to make this work. Some nights, I worry about our sacrifices. What if the kids don't understand why we're changing things? Jessica nodded, her expression solemn. They'll feel it if we're stressed. Maybe we can share some of our worries without overwhelming them. It's important they know chasing dreams isn't just about the rewards. The rain pounded harder against the windows, each droplet a reminder of the storm they faced outside and within. Would the kids see their dreams as an adventure or feel burdened by the decisions? Hey, Doug squeezed her hand tighter, we'll do it together. No matter what happens, we have each other. Yes, we do, she replied, a flicker of light returning to her eyes. And that's what counts. We're building a family legacy after all. One they can be proud of. As they strategized further, joy started to blossom in their hearts, but shadows still loomed in the corners of their minds. Each step forward felt shaky, layered with fear and hope. The world outside was dark, the storm raging, but inside it felt different. With their plans taking shape, the room brightened, shadows receding. Yet, Doug couldn't shake the feeling that true change would test them. What if our plan hits bumps? What if we fail? Jessica took a deep breath, her shoulders square with resolve. What if we succeed? And suddenly, everything shifted. The storm outside began to calm, a mirror to their internal struggles. They were on the brink of something significant, a shift toward embracing their reality, but the final leap was still ahead. As they finalized their thoughts, Doug glanced outside. The clouds parted slightly, letting through beams of light. It feels like we can finally see a path forward. Or maybe it's just the calm before the real storm, Jessica said, her eyes narrowing playfully. What do you mean? Doug laughed, feeling light, yet apprehensive. The difficult part is just beginning, Jessica replied, a serious edge in her voice. Can we handle the truth? What if everything doesn't go as planned? That question hung in the air, heavy with unspoken fears, a challenge they would need to confront together. Doug's heart raced, knowing their next steps would guide them down this uncertain path. How would they face the challenges ahead, and would it ultimately strengthen their bond or pull them apart? The reality loomed, and the weight of truth pressed down like the storm still brewing outside. The following morning brought a stillness, the aftermath of the storm outside leaving a fresh, cool air that enveloped the house. Doug stood in the kitchen, his coffee still warm in his hands while he gazed out the window, absorbing the clarity of the day. Sunlight filtered through, casting cozy patches on the floor as the kids raced around, laughter echoing throughout the home. Hey, Dad! Look what I made! Lily, their youngest, burst into the kitchen, brandishing a paper snake decorated with crayons and stickers. That's amazing, sweetheart. Doug knelt down to her level, his heart swelling with pride. You're quite the artist. Thanks. Can I hang it in my room? She asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Of course. But how about we teach you how to make a budget for stickers next time? He winked, hoping to springboard off this small victory into something more significant, something that worked toward their family goals. Lily pouted playfully, budgeting sounds boring. Jessica peeked around the corner, catching their exchange. She chuckled softly, smoothing her fingers over the back of her neck. You two make a good team. Just laying the groundwork for family finances, Doug said with mock seriousness, savoring the lightness of the moment, even as the reality of their situation flickered in the background. Good luck with that, Jessica replied, rolling her eyes but smiled. They are still kids after all. The small talk eased anxiety, but underneath it, the real concerns tangled in Doug's mind. Would their individual sacrifices and the family's dreams balance out? What if the kids struggled with understanding why their lives were shifting? After breakfast, the family huddled around the table. Doug, Jessica, and the kids, their messy hair from last night's storm still a source of amusement. Doug looked at them and felt a rush of love, but the unease crept in again. So, guys, we want to try something a little different. More chores. Jake grimaced, clearly not thrilled at the idea. No, nothing like that. Doug tapped a pencil on the paper, getting ready to elaborate. We're starting a family project. It's about our dreams and how we can work towards them together. Jessica chimed in, offering a comforting smile. We've got big plans, and we'd love your ideas. Let's talk about what makes us all happy. What do you think we need to make our family even better? The kids exchanged glances, hesitant yet curious. As they began sharing their thoughts, Doug felt the distance lessen. Little voices bubbled with exciting ideas, new activities, vacations, even gadgets they dreamed of. But what does that have to do with our budget? Jake asked, his brow furrowed, pulling Doug straight back to the core of the issue. Everything, Doug replied, feeling a spark of determination. Your dreams help shape what we want to save for. Understanding that will be important as we tackle this together. The excitement in the room blurred the seriousness of budgeting, and the kids began to grasp the idea of collaboration. Slowly, a sense of unity grew that Doug hadn't anticipated. But just as hope blossomed, a cloud of doubt swept over him. What if they started this with the right intentions but lost sight of each other as tensions surfaced? After the brainstorming session, the atmosphere remained light, voices sweet and lively. But later that evening, under the flickering glow of the lamp, Doug couldn't sleep. Shadows from the day's conversations took shape as fears planted deeper in his mind. What would happen when the pressure mounted? Would their newfound unity collapse under the weight of reality? He turned to Jessica, who lay beside him, her steady breath a contrast to his turmoil. Are we really up for this? He whispered, unsure if he wanted an answer. Whatever it is, we face it together, she murmured, her hand finding his, grounding him for just a moment. Their future stretched out ahead like an uncharted map. They had a direction, but the journey would reveal challenges they could hardly fathom. As the silence wrapped around them, Doug felt a mix of hope and fear settle in his heart. Tomorrow would bring another set of decisions, and their courage would be tested more than they knew, more than he had prepared. Could they hold on to their dreams as a family, or would the reality of life threaten to tear them apart? The next day dawned bright and clear, yet Doug felt an unyielding weight pressing on his chest as he sipped his coffee. The morning bustle was alive again, with children's giggles bouncing off the walls, but inside, he wrestled with his doubts. He watched as Lily played with her paper snake, and Jake flipped through pages of a comic book, but their innocence only amplified his anxiety. At breakfast, Doug's mind raced as he tried to focus on the family's new project. All right, team, he said, his voice steady, though he couldn't quite mask the tremor of uncertainty. What's our first step? Lily, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, brightened up. Can we start with the vacation? The beach sounds fun. Her enthusiasm was infectious, and even Jake nodded, the corners of his mouth lifting. Sounds good to me, but what about other ideas? Doug urged, eager to see the wheels turning in his children's minds. It was essential for them to grasp what their dreams could mean in terms of finances and effort. I want a skateboard, Jake piped up, his hopes shining through. A big treehouse. Lily added, her eyes wide with dreams. Jessica smiled, her eyes gleaming as she wrote down their ideas. See? We're already off to a great start. Let us not forget, though, achieving these dreams means we might have to make some sacrifices here and there. Jake frowned, the excitement dimming as reality sank in. Wait, does that mean we can't have fun anymore? Doug felt the heat rising in his cheeks. He wanted to protect them from the harshness of what lay ahead, but knew honesty was essential. No, buddy, it's about finding balance. We can still enjoy ourselves. The kitchen fell quiet, the clinking of silverware the only sound in the air. Doug felt the tension like a living thing. Suddenly, Lily spoke up again, so, can we do all of it? Like, can we have the treehouse and the skateboard? Sure, Doug replied, but a sliver of doubt crept in. But we'll have to work together on the plans and figure out how to save for them. He felt Jessica's eyes on him, a silent conversation happening behind the calm exterior. This wasn't just about budgeting, it was about teaching the kids to face challenges, to create strategies, and to understand the value of teamwork. Let's make a chart. Lily suggested, her creativity surfacing again. We could put stickers next to things when we save for them. Good idea, Doug said, a flicker of warmth igniting his resolve. When we achieve something, we can celebrate it. As the brainstorming continued, Doug felt tentative hope rising. They went on to create a colorful poster, each idea outlined with enthusiasm, with spaces for stickers to mark their progress. The children took ownership of the project, their laughter filling the room as they argued playfully over who would design what. Later that afternoon, as the sun dipped toward the horizon, Doug stepped outside for a moment of breath. The sunset painted the sky in brilliant hues, but the weight in his heart returned. They had made plans, filled with promise, but what about the looming adjustments? Jessica joined him on the porch, squeezing his shoulder gently. You did great today. They're really excited. His shoulders relaxed, if only a little. Yeah, but what if they don't react well when the reality kicks in? I want this to be good for them. They're resilient, Doug. Just like we can be. Jessica's voice was calm, but her eyes held the same flicker of doubt Doug had felt all day, but behind them echoed the kids' laughter, and for a moment, the worries seeped away. Still, Doug knew they were standing on a fragile precipice. The vision they had built that morning for their family could easily slip away if they weren't careful. What if the changes became too much? What if the laughter faded beneath the weight of fear and anxiety? The sunlight began to dim, shadows creeping into corners of the yard, as the day wound down. A new week lay ahead, and with it, challenges he couldn't yet see. Was this family project just the beginning of something bigger that would challenge their hearts and test their unity? As he watched the kids chase each other through the fading light, Doug sensed they were still on the edge of something significant, decisions looming like gathering storms on the horizon. The question was, would they weather the storm together, or would the struggles tear them apart? The next morning dawned with the promise of a new week, but Doug's heart was heavy as he brewed the coffee. The kids were already dressed and bouncing around the living room, excitement crackling in the air like static electricity. Doug distractedly listened to their chatter as he stared at the newspaper, a mindless routine that barely registered amidst his internal chaos. Dad! Can we do our chart today? Lily's voice broke through his foggy reverie, pulling him back to the present. She stood there, beaming, clutching her tablet, freshly designed with stickers and bright colors. Sure, sweetie, Doug replied, forcing a smile. Inside, uncertainty churned. What if the dreams they painted didn't align with the reality he still fought so hard to face? Jake jumped in, his movements full of energy. And can we test the skateboard too? I want to see how fast I can go. Doug nodded, holding on to the momentary joy. He couldn't deny their enthusiasm, but reality lurked just out of reach, casting shadows on their excitement. The projects they were planning would require financial sacrifices, compromises Doug wasn't ready to drop on them. As breakfast progressed, laughter filled the space where worry usually lived. Jessica caught Doug's eye across the table, a silent communication passing between them. She knew, as he did, that their family was standing before a turning point. But would they be able to navigate it together? After breakfast, Doug led the kids to the dining room where they had laid out the chart. Stickers of bright, smiling suns and shining stars adorned the paper. Okay, team. What do you want to start with? He attempted to sound chipper, though his heart tumbled at the challenge of explaining the nuances of saving. I say we save for the treehouse first, shouted Jake, his eyes lighting up. That means hard work, big guy, Doug said, trying to contextualize the change. We should think about how to earn the money for these dreams as a team. Can we sell lemonade? Like, the best lemonade ever? Lily suggested, and Doug felt a surge of pride mixed with dread. It was a start, their enthusiasm a beacon in his sea of concern. Of course. A lemonade stand sounds perfect, he said, warmth in his voice. But we'll need supplies, and I can help gather them. Lily offered, determination written all over her face. Awesome. Doug said, trying to channel his own worries into excitement. And we'll need a budget. Jake's face scrunched up. What's that? It's like a plan for our money. So we know how much we need to get supplies for our lemonade, Doug explained, but knew he was probably losing them with numbers, Jessica chimed in. It's also about knowing how much money we can keep for fun things after we buy our supplies. Jake nodded slowly, grasping the concept. I want to have fun, too. As they began planning, Doug felt the weight of his own expectations bear down again. Would these small, innocent conversations be enough to equip them for the challenges ahead? Together, they mapped out the lemonade stand. Doug felt the tremors of fear subside slightly as creativity blossomed in their ideas. The kids rallied together, drawing flyers, pumping themselves up for the task. Each excited shout, every burst of laughter reminded Doug of those fleeting moments of innocence. He longed for a time when the simplicity of childhood shielded them from adult worries. The sun dipped lower in the sky as they ventured out into the community, lemonade stand in tow. Remember, guys, this is teamwork at its best. We're in this together, Doug encouraged, feeling the pride of their shared venture momentarily overshadow the shadows of reality creeping behind him. As the first customer approached, Doug grinned at his kids' cheers, their pure excitement radiating warmth. Yet, just beneath the surface, the questions loomed: will they truly be okay? How will they react when the reality of their sacrifices finally sets in? Suddenly, a familiar face appeared among the crowd. It was Mr. Johnson from next door, his expression unreadable. Doug felt the tension rise again, and a chill settled in his stomach. What had he come to say? In that moment, the cheerful chatter faded as Doug expected the worst. Would this moment spell trouble for the plans they had only just begun to build? Doug's heart thudded in his chest as Mr. Johnson approached. The neighbors had always shared a cordial relationship, but recently, Doug sensed a distance growing like a cloud hanging over them. What could he possibly want now? Hey, Doug. Mr. Johnson greeted with a wave, though his tone was more serious than usual. Mind if I ask what you're up to? With the bright yellow lemonade stand set up, the kids were oblivious to the tension radiating from Doug. It was all about their excitement. Their laughter floated around them like musical notes. Still, Doug couldn't shake the unsettling feeling. He wiped his clammy hands on his jeans and cleared his throat, forcing himself to respond. Oh, we're just trying to turn dreams into reality, you know. Kids want to save for a treehouse. Thought a lemonade stand would be a good start. Mr. Johnson raised an eyebrow, a hint of skepticism flickering across his face. Treehouse, huh? That's ambitious. You sure you can swing that? Costs can add up. Doug's stomach nodded. We'll figure it out. Just some lemonade, some flyers. It'll be fine. The children's voices beckoned him back to the light, but the shadows of doubt lingered too closely. You've got to teach them right, Doug. Money matters. Just don't want them to get disappointed down the line. His words hit like ice water on Doug's skin. There it was, the unsettling thought that gripped him tightly every night as he tossed and turned in bed. Had he been too optimistic? Would their little dreams come crashing down before they even had a chance to lift off? Thanks, I appreciate the advice, Doug replied, trying to brush it off with a shrug. He forced a smile, though he felt it waver. Jake ran past with his first customer, a neighborhood kid eager to buy a cup of their best lemonade ever. Doug watched the dollar bill exchange hands, a tiny spark of hope igniting within him. This was teamwork. This was family. Lily, ever the enthusiastic planner, was busy decorating the stand with colorful drawings. Look, Dad. I made our sign. It's a rainbow, she called out. The joy radiating from his children brought a warmth to his heart, yet Mr. Johnson's words lingered. What if they wouldn't get to finish their project? What if reality smothered their dreams before they even got a chance for them to flourish? "Let us just focus on our lemonade stand for now," Doug said, patting Jake on the back as he collected money. "Hey, we're doing great, right?" The kids cheered, momentarily dismissing the weight of their father's worries. Doug steeled himself and faced Mr. Johnson again. But just then, a commotion erupted at the edge of the street. A couple of older kids zoomed by on their skateboards, one of them accidentally bumping into the stand, sending it wobbling dangerously. "Hey! Watch it!" Doug yelled, reflexively stepping forward to steady it. The glee in his children's voices was replaced by startled gasps. "Are you okay?" Lily pleaded, her eyes wide with concern. "I'm fine," Doug hurriedly reassured her, but as he moved to check the stand, he felt the ground shift beneath his feet. The fragility of the moment was palpable. Was he really okay? Could they really make it? Mr. Johnson observed silently, and Doug took a deep breath, trying to maintain his composure even as uncertainty clawed at his insides. What was wrong with him? Why couldn't he shake this fear? But just as he tried to regain his equilibrium, a familiar face from his past emerged from the crowd, someone he hadn't seen in years. A name flashed in his mind, stirring memories he locked away. The connection was instant, electric, yet laden with unresolved emotions. "Doug?" The figure called out, the recognition clear in their gaze. His heart raced as he turned fully, caught between the pressing weight of his duties as a father and the unresolved issues from a life he thought he'd moved on from. "What are you doing here?" He managed, the question filling the air with an almost palpable tension, leaving both old hopes and forgotten fears dancing in the background. What decisions lay ahead as Doug faced not only his present but also a part of his past he thought he had buried forever? Doug stood frozen as the name fell heavily into the space between them. Amy. The name felt foreign on his lips, a relic of another time, another life. He hadn't seen her since that summer before everything changed. "Surprise," she said, a hint of a smile breaking through her playful demeanor, but Doug could see the uncertainty in her eyes. Did she feel the weight of history pressing against them like he did? The kids, still buzzing from the lemonade sales, flitted around the stand, unaware of the emotional currents swirling just out of their view. Doug could hear Lily's laughter mixing with Jake's triumph as they made plans for an elaborate treehouse, yet the chatter was muffled by the thundering of his heart. "What are you doing in town?" Doug tried to sound casual, but the edge in his voice betrayed him. Amy stepped closer, her skateboard tucked under her arm. "I just moved back, needed a change. Thought I'd visit old friends." She hesitated, glancing at the lemonade stand with a mixture of nostalgia and confusion. "I didn't expect to see you here, in this happy bubble." For a moment, they were both standing at the edge of a precipice, memories washing over them like a tide. The summer of their youth, full of unspoken dreams, flickered in Doug's mind. They were good friends, once, before the crack of time stretched them apart, before life had woven separate paths. "Yeah," he said, swallowing hard. "This is the new life for me. Family, responsibilities." The words were almost foreign, as if he was reassessing his own reflection in her eyes. Amy studied him, searching for something beyond the surface. "You seem different. But in a good way. I mean, I remember when you would." She trailed off, and a shadow of self-consciousness danced across her face that he couldn't help but smile, feeling a warmth creeping back in as he remembered the innocence of those days. "Yeah, I was a dreamer back then. Still am, I guess. It's just, you've got kids now." She motioned toward the stand, where Jake was showing off his first dollar bill to a friend. "You're not that guy who'll drop everything to travel the world anymore, huh?" There it was again, the doubt creeping back into his mind. Did he let go of the old him too easily? "No, I'm still a little that way," Doug assured her. "But my dreams evolved. I just want to give them everything I didn't have." As soon as the words left his mouth, he caught sight of Mr. Johnson lingering nearby, a watchful sentinel in the background. The realization sliced through him. Was he living a lie in his pursuit? Amy smiled gently. I get it. I've been working on my dreams too. Maybe we've both changed for the better. Their eyes locked for a breath, and in that instant, hidden emotions swirled between them. Could they possibly share a new sort of dream now, after all these years? Just then, Lily bounced up to Doug, interrupting the moment with uncontainable excitement. Dad! Look! We sold more lemonade. Her bright smile illuminated Doug's decision point, drawing him back into fatherhood's warm embrace. But Amy's presence urged him to acknowledge the unresolved feelings lurking in his heart. He glanced at her and saw not just someone from the past, but a glimmer of possibility for the future. That's amazing, sweetie. We'll need to celebrate. But as Doug returned his gaze to Amy, the moment felt fragile, a tightrope between his past and his present. The weight of their shared history loomed over them, an unresolved chapter that begged for attention. Maybe we can catch up, later. Amy's voice was hopeful, hinting at a desire for connection that made Doug's heart race with a mix of excitement and anxiety. What will happen if I say yes? He wondered, the question lingering heavy in the air as he balanced the expectations of fatherhood with the whispers of nostalgia and newfound temptations. Time moved anew, the choices ahead flashing like stars in his mind's sky, each one promising to lead him deeper into the labyrinth of emotions he had kept at bay. What did it mean to dream again, especially now that he had a family to protect? And just as he felt the weight of those questions settle into his stomach, a commotion erupted from the street. An unexpected siren wailed in the distance, jolting the neighborhood back into the present. What now? Doug muttered, the cracks in his reality widening as he turned toward the escalating chaos. What new challenge awaited them that day, and would it bring him closer to the answers he craved, or push him deeper into unknown territory? Doug's heart raced as the siren's wail sliced through the afternoon chatter. The familiar sounds of laughter and playful banter faded into a backdrop of uncertainty. He turned towards the street, where neighbors were gathering, their faces etched with confusion and concern. What's happening? Lily tugged at his sleeve, her excitement dampened by the heavy energy. Just a little commotion, sweetheart. Stay close, he said, trying to mask his own unease. He glanced at Amy, who had also turned to watch the unfolding scene, her expression shifted from nostalgia to concern. As the first responders arrived, Doug's gaze skimmed over the gathering onlookers. There was Mr. Johnson still standing nearby, a frown deepening on his brow as he scowled at the chaos. He had always been a stickler for order. Doug remembered endless talks about the importance of playing by the rules. A police car parked a few feet away, and an officer stepped out, exuding authority as he surveyed the scene. Doug's instincts kicked in. He moved toward the throng of neighbors who were whispering among themselves, searching their faces for clues. What do you think happened? Someone murmured. Could be anything, another replied, shifting nervously. Hope it's nothing serious. Doug positioned himself closer to the crowd, straining to catch every word. A woman stepped forward, her hands trembling. My husband, he was at the corner store when I saw people running. I can't find him. A rush of concern washed over Doug. The unease gripped him. It wasn't just a commotion, it was clearly something more serious. He turned to Amy, who had wandered closer, her eyes wide with apprehension. Should we do something? She asked, her usual playful demeanor replaced by a more serious tone. Doug hesitated, feeling the weight of her inquiry. He had responsibilities to protect, but his heart urged him to help. I don't know, but I feel like we should help, or at least find out what is going on, he finally said. Amy nodded, and they moved toward the police blockade. To Doug, it felt like stepping onto shaky ground, one foot in his present life, and the other slipping into a chaotic past he hadn't anticipated. Stay here with Lily, he said, as they reached the edges of the commotion. Let me see what I can find out. He glanced back, locking eyes with Amy. In that fleeting moment, she understood. There was a collective endurance in their shared glance, years of unspoken words wrapped tightly around them. Just then, a siren blared again, echoing in the enclosed street. The crowd stirred, and a few residents pressed forward, drawn by the urgency. Doug felt the pull, a magnetic force drawing him to confront the uncertainty, to wrestle with the thoughts that had recently invaded his mind. As he neared the police line, the officer turned to him, raising a hand. "Sir, we need you to step back. This is an active situation." Doug felt frustration bubbling inside. "What happened? Is everyone okay?" "Just a little accident, a stolen vehicle crashed into the store," the officer replied, but his eyes remained on the crowd, scanning faces for any signs of panic. "We're sorting it out. Keep your distance." "An accident. Not serious," yet the shadows it cast stretched wide. The relief could barely settle in Doug's chest, as it also stirred another question: what if something worse stirs beneath the surface? The officer began to pull up a barrier, and Doug turned to Amy, who had followed close behind. "It's not as bad as I thought, but still." "Still what?" Amy pressed, her curiosity igniting. Doug hesitated, his mind spinning again to the dreams they once had, the old possibilities aligning with the present moment. "What if we tried to make a change, not just today, but for us?" Amy's eyes sparkled with something that almost felt like hope. But before they could delve deeper into that important conversation, a loud crash interrupted them. A commotion erupted, voices rising. "What is going on now?" Doug said, feeling the world tilt as he turned sharply toward the noise. As the crowd thickened around them, shouts filled the air, mixing with the electric tension. "Whatever's happening next, it can't be good." Doug breathed, sensing yet another storm brewing. With the chaos brewing around them and the unanswered questions lingering heavier than ever, Doug realized he stood at a crossroads, facing not just a physical threat, but the deeper implications of his choices. What awaited him in the storm of emotions and decisions yet to be made? Would he take the leap back into the unknown? Doug stood on the threshold of chaos, the sound of shouts ringing in his ears. He gripped the edge of the lemonade stand, feeling the wooden frame shift under his hands. His heart raced. Questions swirled like autumn leaves caught in a whirlwind. What did this mean for his family? What about the dreams they had just begun to weave together? "Stay close, kids," he called out, glancing back at Lily and Jake, who stood watching, eyes wide with a mix of fear and curiosity. Jessica had stepped into the yard from the house, her expression shifting as she assessed the commotion. "What is happening?" she asked, trying to shield the children with her presence. Doug's mouth felt dry. "Just a little accident, but it feels bigger than that," he replied, his mind racing. He felt the familiar weight in his chest. This was a reminder that life could change in an instant, that their dreams could evaporate like mist in the morning sun. Why had he thought they could simply turn the tide with optimism alone? "The police are here," Amy said, peering over Doug's shoulder, her presence grounding him, yet also stirring up old feelings. He swallowed hard, locking eyes with her. This was more than just an accident, it mirrored what haunted him. The fragility of their plans, of his family's future, gnawed at him. "Do you think we should just leave?" he began, even as he felt the pull of curiosity, of responsibility. Amy caught his gaze, understanding running deep. "What if we helped? Maybe we can offer some support. You know, as neighbors." The thought ignited something within him, a flicker of their youthful idealism creeping back. "You think it would matter?" Doug's voice softened, vulnerability revealing itself amidst the chaos. "It might. People need each other. It's how we rise above," Amy replied, her gaze firm yet gentle. As the words hung in the air, Doug's thoughts turned to his own family. They were still here, together despite the uncertainties. Leaning into that thought, he nodded, deciding to step forward. "Right. Let us see what we can do." He glanced back at Jessica, her eyes narrowing as if weighing the decision. But then she nodded, her fierce protective nature intertwining with a willing heart. "All right," she said, confidence rising. "I'm in too." They approached the chaos as a family, hand in hand with Amy. Doug felt strength in unity. His family, joined together to help others. The earlier tension released, almost like a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. This was the moment of transformation they had all needed. Together, they moved closer to the scene, where a few neighbors were already pitching in. Doug watched as a woman aided another, offering comfort, while children, including his own, pitched in with supplies for cleanup. A sense of camaraderie blossomed, weaving their own dreams into the urgency. As they joined in, Doug marveled at how interconnected everyone had become in this moment. Somehow, hearts opened amidst the chaos, revealing the profound truth about community. The bond between them had never truly waned. "We can't let fear dictate our choices," Doug murmured to Jessica during a brief moment of connection. She nodded, a spark in her eyes as she smiled at their kids, who were busy helping. The day wore on, the sounds of laughter and conversation weaving through the air, a testament to resilience. Slowly but surely, the urgency began to settle into a rhythm of cooperation, and Doug felt the swell of hope rise within him. By evening, the sun dipped low, painting the sky with remnants of warmth. They stood enveloped in this moment, surrounded by their helpers. The worries that had haunted Doug began to fade, replaced by the heartwarming realization that they were all in this together, that they were building something profound not just for themselves but for their community. Doug glanced sideways at Amy. "You know," he started, "maybe we both needed this reminder. About dreams and what really matters." "Yeah," she replied, her tone softened by the day's experience. "Life may not always go according to plan, but we can reshape it even together." In that moment, Doug understood the essential lesson life had been trying to teach him. Their dreams would take work, and they wouldn't always follow straightforward paths. But embracing each moment, cultivating relationships, and building insights together could lead them to something extraordinary. As they packed up to leave, Doug took one last look at their lemonade stand, now a symbol of new hope. It was time to embrace all that lay ahead. "Let us go home," he said, heart lighter. "After this, I know we can do anything together." As the family stepped back into the familiar warmth of their home, Doug felt a shift within him, an unwavering confidence. They had weathered storms, they could chase those dreams with newfound clarity. In that instant, Doug felt it, the transformative power of courage, love, and family, binding them together even stronger than before. They were ready to reach for those dreams and teach their children that life was always worth fighting for, as long as they faced it together. This was only the beginning, and despite the challenges ahead, Doug was certain collectively, they could transform any storm into a legacy filled with dreams, laughter, and the powerful love of family. Don't wait right now. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more incredible journeys. Leave a like to support us and help us reach even more hearts. Share your thoughts in the comments. How did this story touch you? You need to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation, because true fans understand the importance of lifting each other up. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second.